What happened when the boy who cried wolf actually met the wolf? I remember sitting in the office when my coworker Derek stumbled in 40 minutes late. The room went quiet as we saw him gripping the doorframe, face pale green, looking like death warmed over. Food poisoning, he gasped, then dramatically ran to the bathroom. Our manager Karen rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out. Derek had called in sick 12 times in 3 months. Migraines on Mondays, stomach flu on Fridays, mysterious rashes before every deadline. The man had more medical emergencies than a season of Grey's Anatomy, but our sweet receptionist Lily felt bad and offered him her ginger tea. This helps with nausea, she said kindly. Karen's head snapped around like she had manager radar. Oh, wonderful. Now we're having tea time. You know what? Everyone's staying late tonight. Mandatory inventory. No exceptions. The groans echoed through the cubicles. This is exactly why productivity is down, she went on. 15 years running this department, and for what? So you can coddle someone who's obviously hungover? Well, today you're going to learn what accountability means. Everyone knew she was really done this time, and Derek sipped that tea like it was medicine from the gods. Then, one sip, and everything changed. 30 seconds later, his face shifted like someone hit a switch. He started grabbing at his throat, making these horrible gasping sounds. Karen didn't even look up from her computer, just kept typing while muttering, "Do not encourage him," obviously trying to get out of inventory. Then his face started swelling. Everyone was stealing glances while pretending to work. Red welts spread across his neck like fire. He was making these wet, choking sounds that made my skin crawl. Karen, Lily tried to intervene. Karen, this looks real. Stop. She spun around. I will not have my department disrupted by another one of Derek's performances. Everyone back to work. Anyone who helps him is fired. But how could we ignore him? Derek's face was literally turning blue. He was trying to stay upright, but tears and snot were streaming down his face. He was clawing at his throat, making sounds I didn't know humans could make. James stood up. There's an EpiPen in the first aid kit. My daughter has allergies. I know what this looks like. Karen planted herself in front of the supply closet like a goalie. Sit down, James. This is exactly what I'm talking about. No discipline, no accountability, just excuses. Derek was gripping his desk so hard the keyboard cracked. His whole body was convulsing. He tried to speak, but his throat was so swollen nothing came out. Karen kept ranting. 15 years of management, and this is what it's come to. Employees who can't go 5 minutes without drama. We watched in absolute horror as Derek's eyes rolled back. He slid off his chair and hit the floor with a thud that still haunts me. Foam bubbled from his purple lips. That's when we all knew this wasn't fake. This was Derek, minutes away from dying in a budget meeting. James jumped up. Move! He's dying! He ran toward the supply closet, but Karen spread her arms wide to block him. You will not undermine my authority. This is exactly why this department is failing. Get out of the way! James screamed. She dug in harder. James knew Derek was dying, so he shoved her hard. She stumbled into a printer while James tore open the first aid kit. He grabbed the EpiPen and dove toward Derek, jamming it into his thigh as Karen screamed about assault charges and termination. Lily had already called 911. The rest of us formed a protective circle around Derek, watching James count out loud. Come on, breathe. The longest 30 seconds of my life passed before Derek gasped the tiniest breath, but he needed immediate medical attention. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes, clearing everyone out. They asked Karen what happened, but she was speechless. Turns out that harmless ginger tea had honey in it. Derek was deathly allergic to bee products, something he'd never known because he'd avoided honey his whole life thinking he just didn't like the taste. The cops interviewed everyone. One by one, we all pointed at Karen. She blocked the first aid kit. She threatened to fire anyone who helped. She said he was faking while he was literally foaming at the mouth. When they asked for her side, she was still in shock. He's a chronic faker, always calling in sick. How was I supposed to know this time was real? They fired her that day. The company was so terrified of lawsuits they gave her no severance, no reference, nothing. Banned from the entire corporate network. Derek survived but has permanent vocal cord damage. He whispers now, can barely speak above a breath. He sued the company and won enough to never work again. The ironic part, HR investigated Derek's sick days after the incident. Turns out he had undiagnosed Crohn's disease. Every fake illness was a real flare-up he'd been suffering through because he couldn't afford the specialist copays. The company had to pay for that too. James got promoted to Karen's position. First thing he did was put EpiPens in every room and train everyone in first aid. Second thing was implementing unlimited sick days. Karen works at a call center now.